welcome, and my name is Walter, and I'm from Niagara. So today, I really want to talk about a concept that I've been working on for a while, and it's called a big Niagara. And I don't know if anyone's been following Chris Hadfield. He's the Canadian commander of the International Space Station. He's the first Canadian commander of the space station. He's been up there for a few months, and he's been posting photos of the world as he sees it. So this is one image that I've pulled off of it, and it's a South American river. And I just like the unique topography that he's been able to capture from 354 kilometers above the world. He's got a very unique vantage point. This is another shot that he has taken, and this is a Brazilian watershed, and you can see the farming part of the community, where from the water they're able to have the agricultural lands there. And I show you these because when I look at his photos, there's an absence of artificial lines. There's an absence of boundaries. There's an absence of borders between countries, between towns, between counties. And that's why I'm attracted to his work, because it's a singular world. So one of the images that he recently took was of Niagara. And those who can see this one, you've got the Niagara River right here. You've got the Welland Canal. There's cloud cover in this image. And you get this sense of Niagara, although it is a bit cloudy. And I think that is the case some of the days, whether there's clouds in the sky or not. This one is a night shot of Niagara. And you see the buffalo is the dominant one, and it's actually quite fitting that I'm showing this one today as it's Earth Day, and hopefully people will turn off their lights. And then you have Niagara Falls. You've got the falls up here. You've got St. Catharines, Welland, Port Colborne, Fort Erie's over here. And again, it just captures who we are without any kind of artificial lines on a map. This is his most recent one that was posted about a week ago. And it's the clearest example of where we live today and how he would see us being so far up above. The interesting note here is that it's a different angle than we're used to seeing on a map. And if you look at it, some people have pointed out that you've got the silhouette of a man on this side here. This would be Lake Erie. Then you got the river, and you got Lake Ontario. And some people on Twitter have said it almost looks like a silhouette of Sir Isaac Brock, which is actually quite fascinating. Considering that it's the 200th anniversary of the War of 1812, and the fact that he posted this, maybe it's more than just mere coincidence. So when you look at these together, you don't see any kind of artificial line that separates communities. You just see, from my perspective, a community, a Niagara community. And then you get this. So you get this map of the region that's all cut up. Red lines, artificial lines, lines that are placed there by some governing body. And what this reminds me of is something that Globe and Mail columnist Jeffrey Simpson writes about from a Canadian context, and it's called, he refers to it as the Big Canada versus Little Canada. So Big Canada is the sum of its parts. It's taking all of our natural assets, taking all that we are together as a country and pushing forward, moving together as one. Little Canada is about provinces pitted against each other. It's about provinces fighting with Ottawa, and it gets in the way of what we could really do and what we could really be. And he writes about that on a fairly frequent basis. And when you look at a map like this and you look at Niagara, it's not far off to say that in Niagara we have the same conundrum. We have the big Niagara versus the little Niagara. And indeed, if you look at most North American jurisdictions, you're probably going to be bumping into this concept where you have old ingrained thoughts, where you have lines on a map that keep communities apart, and yet there is a need to push for bigger things, for bigger ideas. And in Little Niagara, it's about a governance model that's outdated. We have 125 elected officials governing 400,000 people. We're the most over-governed region in all of Canada. It was a model built in the 20th century. We're in the 21st century. So with a big Niagara, it's getting beyond these lines. It's starting to erase what you see on the map here. And so this image is a Google Earth image of Niagara. And what you see is the abundance of that which is around us. The water, the agricultural land, the land between us is what defines us, as much as the water that is our borders. And when you start to come to an understanding of the issues that are facing us as a community, you really start to see the divide between a little Niagara and a big Niagara. So I want to start with poverty. It's real. It's on your street. It's in your schools. It's in the workplace. We have one of the highest unemployment rates in all of Canada. Child poverty is a serious issue in our communities. Ask any teacher. And yet, when the United Ways in Niagara wanted to come together, it was little Niagara that got in the way. So instead of having one united way for all of Niagara, there was a fight to prevent it. But we need the resources from a united way, a Niagara United Way, that would be able to address poverty in Fort Erie, in Welland, in St. Catharines, Pelham, Niagara-on-the-Lake. I donate to a number of charities. So I donate to United Way. I donate to Jillian's Place. I donate to Community Care, a whole bunch of different organizations that I believe in. And my dollar should not stay in St. Catharines. My dollar should not stay in Niagara-on-the-Lake. My dollar should go to the families that need it the most. My dollar should go to the child that needs it the most. My dollar should go to the projects that need it the most in Niagara. That would be a big Niagara concept. And yet the obstacles to poverty are driven by a little Niagara mentality. Let's talk about healthcare. And it's fitting, again, I wrote this before, but there's the opening of the brand new healthcare complex in Niagara today. They're moving those patients. One of the biggest moves by a medical institution in all of Canada is happening today. But in healthcare, that is the classic example of little Niagara versus big Niagara. That hospital complex was fought against, communities were pitted against each other, and they still are. In a little Niagara, we have a hospital in all of our communities. Go back to that map with 12 municipalities. Every municipality wants its own hospital. That's unaffordable. The province of Ontario is running serious deficits. We cannot afford the health care that we had 50 years ago. It's more complex than that. And yet, we should be celebrating the opening of a new hospital in St. Catharines, and a big Niagara would be pushing to continue to modernize healthcare in Niagara. We should be pushing for a new hospital in South Niagara instead of having the mayors fight amongst themselves as to where a new hospital should be located. We just need to go forward and build it. But when you look at the provincial government and when they look at how we're approaching healthcare, the fragmented nature of it, the little Niagara that's holding us back is holding back modern healthcare here in our region. Last one is the economy. We have so many natural assets in Niagara. We are right next door to the biggest trading partner. We are one of the major trading corridors in all of Canada. We've got an engineering marvel in the Welland Canal. We got 2 bodies of water between us. We are in the middle of the 4th largest economic corridor in all of North America. In the middle of it. We have a 400 series highway. We've got Niagara College, one of the best colleges in all of Canada. We've got Brock University that is invested in research, that is investing in innovation, that is producing the kind of innovation and research that will move us forward. We have the culture that other communities would die for. From the Shaw Festival to the Niagara Artist Center and all points in between. We have a wonderful cultural mosaic here. And yet, we've got one of the highest unemployment rates in all of Canada. Last year, we had 15% unemployment for youth. Businesses don't want to locate here. I'm with the Chamber of Commerce. You'd be surprised how many businesses want to leave Niagara. It's unsettling. But how come? We've got one regional economic development department at the region. We've got 5 economic development departments locally. They fight amongst themselves because they fight for the inward investment. A business that locates in Welland, the revenue goes to Welland, taxation-wise. That's why they're fighting for it. So you have these competing inward forces that are trying to keep their businesses and attract business to their community. They're trying to brand themselves as the place to do business. In a big Niagara, there'd be one economic development agency, it'd have one goal, one objective, to work with business, to attract outward investment, to bring investment to our community, and strategically build our economy. That's what a big Niagara would do. But we're not doing it. So when you look at our natural assets, when you look at our economic assets, when you look at our social assets, we have one of the best manufacturing footprints. We've got Niagara Falls, a tourism attraction, and yet we're falling behind. We're falling behind because we're not thinking big. We're thinking little. So really what it comes down to is one economy. We start with one economy. I have a friend who travels to China on a frequent basis. And he comes back and he says, Walter, there's villages in China that are bigger than Niagara. Villages in China that are bigger than Niagara. We got 400,000 people. We barely register as a regional economy. And yet, we want to see ourselves as 12 individual economies, 12 individual municipalities. When villages in China are rapidly growing, when villages in Africa, when villages in Brazil are coming online, and yet we're competing inwardly, we're fighting amongst ourselves, we're in a global competition for talent, for innovation, for business investment, and that is not going to go away. That is the new reality. Globalization has brought us that. The photos from Commander Hatfield demonstrate that. It's a global world we live in, and yet this great place, we don't see ourselves as one. One community. The one community concept. From Wainfleet to Niagara-on-Lake, from Fort Erie to Grimsby. We are one community. How that looks politically, how you start erasing those lines, is something for the community to talk about. But we are one community. This is who we are, and that's what defines us. And in order for us to move forward, we have to be one Niagara. So this is where we are at the crossroads. We have a decision to make. They won't be easy. They never are. But if we don't embrace the one Niagara concept, if we don't be a big Niagara, we will not be able to solve any of the issues that are facing us. And so with that, if we don't do that, we won't compete. Our kids will not see Niagara as a place in which they can have a career. And the future upon which we depend won't be here, but it'll continue to be hollowed out. So I'll leave you with big Niagara or little Niagara. It's a decision we all have to make. Thank you.